Welcome to the second episode of the Willpower podcast. Today, my guest is Mike Gonzalez. Mike is an executive coach here in Austin, Texas, as well as a leader of the Awakened Warriors men's group. Mike also used to be an MMA fighter, making his way up to become a professional before deciding to step away on his own terms. Mike has been a role model for me, and I think there's a lot to be taken from this conversation. Hope you enjoy. During like the Strickland fight, there was so the first guy said 50. There was one that said 50-45 Strickland, and then another said 49-46 Costa.
Yeah.
And it was like, what?
The judges suck in MMA.
Yeah, that doesn't even.
It's like they're known for making terrible decisions, and also a lot of them are like boxing judges.
Mm-hmm.
So like they don't know, other than striking, like they don't know what the hell's going on. Right. So like they just see if it goes to the ground, like whoever's on top, that person must be winning, or they don't even know like anything about setup. So like they fuck up decisions all the time. Yeah.
And then that Kevin Holland, that finish.
Oh yeah, we got the arm lock.
Yeah.
And he's been like talking shit. He was like that he's been working on his grappling for a while.
Uh-huh.
So it's funny to like, it's good for him that he came back and like got a submission.
Yeah, he locked that up. Have you ever been in that position where you're like, because like that guy did not want to tap.
Yeah.
He was letting his arm just go.
And that's the thing. It's like, that's the different mindset that it comes to competition, but especially fighting. Yeah. Is like, you have to go all the way to break. And a lot of times like people will go to like in training, like they'll go to like a tap or a submission, and then they won't go any further. And then when it happens in the fight or in the competition, that's their practice stopping point, and the person would just eventually like tough it out and escape. But you gotta break that shit.
So you're saying like Kevin Holland might just not be used to like going for a break.
Yeah.
So he's used to just kind of extending the arm, and then
the person taps, and it's like, okay, like I got you.
Right.
Whereas like, no, if you're getting ready for a competition, like that person's, they're willing to let their shit break.
Mm-hmm.
So you just gotta like fuck it up as much as possible to the point where like they can't use it or the ref will stop it.
Yeah. I've heard at my jiu-jitsu gym we have like an MMA team, and one of the coaches was teaching us a normal class. Yeah. And he was teaching arm bars like over the hip. That's what he was saying, because then it breaks. It doesn't just hyperextend. Yeah.
Like that's the way like my like Fox, my instructor, like that's how he'll teach it. Mm-hmm. He's like, he goes by not so much a tap, he goes by pain compliance. Mm. So whatever causes the most amount of pain, whichever way, that's how he'll tap you. So he's like, all right, if they're not tapping here, he'll go over the hip, and then now you have extra braking space.
Yeah. All the way down.
Yeah, there's times in fights and in competitions, like I pop people's arms. Because like leading up to it, I would make the shift that's like, okay, like if I'm willing to go as far as possible to the point where like if something's broken, I'll keep going. And like that's been tried and true for me. Like, you know, when I hurt my knee, like I hopped up and I was like, let's fucking go. Like, I'm good. So it's like, my routine going in was 2 weeks out. I let my teammates know I'm preparing for something. So my intensity is different. Mm-hmm. So tap fast if I get something, because I'm already imagining that I'm catching the opponent. He's not going to tap, and I'm going all the way to like a scream tap.
So there's like a switch that you have to flip where you're like, I'm going hard.
Yeah. So I'm not even seeing, like, I'm no longer in the academy. I don't see you as my friend anymore. You're just a body, and I'm just looking, how can I get you to submit or stop moving?
Yeah.
And it's a whole different, and that was the space that like I didn't like being into too long. And then when I was fighting back to back, I didn't leave that space for a long time.
You're always in it.
Yeah. And that like caused all emotions to turn off.
Yeah. So how often would you fight in your, whenever you're doing it the most frequently? Like how much time would you have in between?
In between? Honestly, it was however long it took for them to find another opponent.
You were just ready.
Yeah. Because like I never took damage in my fights. Like if in all my pictures, my face looks exactly the same. Like there's no marks, nothing. The most I had was like a little like cut here, and that was it. So it's like I'll be ready for the next one. So it's just like, but given my reputation and given my academy's reputation for having like really good jiu-jitsu, and especially once I became like a black belt, I was already building reputation up, but once I got that, it was just people just didn't want to accept fights. Yeah. So that would be like the longest pause. But usually a fight cap is like 6 to 8 weeks, and it'll be I kept increasing how many fights I would take a year. So first it was like 4 fights, 5 fights, and then I was like, towards the end I was like locked in to do 6 fights in a year. Like I was just gonna go back to back to back to back to back.
Basically like one camp fight.
Yeah.
Camp fight. Okay. Yeah, it is interesting, and that happens sometimes in the UFC where like a fighter will just have like a quick fight and then they're ready and they're already like in shape. Yeah. Because they just did a camp.
And like the only thing, they started to enforce a rule that it was 30 days you had to wait no matter what until the next fight, unless like the promoter was able to find some sort of waiver. But there was like almost like a mandatory, you have to wait 30 days in between fights.
Dang. Okay.
Yeah.
So you were limited by that.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's talk about what got you into fighting. Like, how did you start?
Cool. Oh, we started like now.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool.
Get into it.
Yeah, now I'm with it. What got me into fighting was I knew I was always gonna like train in something in martial arts, because like growing up, I was exposed to like kung fu movies, and like my step pops at the time would watch it all the time, and like I was immersed in that. And I was a kid, I was watching like Dragon Ball Z and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and then I knew I was gonna do something, but I didn't know what. And at first I saw it as like a hobby, because that's really all it was at the time. I was like, okay, you just train martial arts. And then there was like tournaments and stuff, but like when I did like karate tournaments as a kid, it was all like you do like your forms and shit, and it's just like that's like that doesn't do anything for me. Like, and then I just rack up on trophies, and that's nice. But the other thing was like it was the week of my graduation, and as I was changing channels, I came across the UFC on like this very low budget channel, like channel like 12 or something. Like, and I saw it and I was like, this is a real thing. Like, this is like an actual sport. Like, I could do this. That's when I made the decision, I'm gonna fight. And then even like my best friends from New York, once I saw them, they were just like, the second we saw UFC, we were like, watch Mike do this shit. So then I didn't know what I was going to train in, because UFC, like MMA fighting was still illegal at the time, like in most states. It was illegal in New York. So when I was watching it, and once I made the decision I was going to fight, like I started to just like watch every single fight possible. And I would watch previous fights of like boxing. Like my favorite was Tyson, and like I liked his mentality. I liked his mentality, not for like the ferociousness, like that was an aspect, but it was because his story of going from like a very afraid, meek person to the person that he ended up being, like that vicious champion. So then, as I started to like watch those, I started to see there was a lot of people. The most common camps were in Cali. So I was like, okay, like worst case scenario, if I can't find anywhere out here, I'll go to Cali. Like there's a lot of MMA places out there. I'll just look for the name where they train and just go there. I was like, before I make such a big move, let me see if there's something around here. Like New York is like popularity wise as big as Cali. So let me just look in the area. Because I looked around PA, around like Penn State. There was nothing. Like no training, nothing.
Then how old were you at this point?
I was like 21. Okay. 21, 22, yeah. Not 21. So then like I'm looking and like all that was around there was like the Taekwondo places, but breaking boards ain't gonna do shit for me. Like, not in a fight. So then, and not to say that I don't have legit techniques, it's just you need more than that. Yeah. So then looked around PA, like I looked around Penn State, nothing. I looked around where my mom lived in Stroudsburg, nothing. And then I was like, okay, before I move to Cali, let me check around Jersey and New York. And then I went to Jersey, and then I came across this guy who was trying to sell himself to me, which already kind of like turned me off to it, because he's like, he mentioned a fighter, this guy Chris Lieben. He was like, I know his manager or his teacher. I was like, it's cool that you know him. But you, like, I'm going to be training with you. What do you know? Like, that doesn't do shit for me.
That's funny.
So then, like, I went and I was like, let me just see what it's like, just so I could, like, have an idea what I'm looking for. Because I don't even know what art I'm looking for. I'm just looking for somewhere to train. And it was, like, at this small yoga studio. And it was, like, a room in that yoga studio. So it's, like, a really small room. It's like 8 of us, not like, yeah, like 6 or 8 of us, small group, which, okay, like that doesn't matter to me. As long as the technique's legit, I don't care, because although I haven't trained, from studying martial arts and watching all those films and putting myself in that, like, that culture, I knew to look for legitimacy. I knew to, like, trace everything back from that instructor to the instructors before him. So once I went in there, we rotated and like trained with him, which I was iffy on, because I felt like at the time that I needed to earn the ability to train with you rather than just training with you directly. That was my thoughts at the time. So then I trained with him, and I gave him a tough time not knowing what I was doing. I was just like resisting in a way that felt natural, and I was still giving him a tough time, and I was just like, this isn't the guy. Like, if I don't know anything and I'm giving you a tough time. So then I came across this other place that was jiu-jitsu. I had no clue what the fuck jiu-jitsu was. And then I went because, like, that jiu-jitsu was still brand new, like very, very brand new, to the point where, like, the only gi there was only like 3 gi companies. Like, there was nothing. There were, like, the tournaments would be like IBJJF would be like once a year, and then Grappler's Quest was the most, like, common and biggest one, and that was like 2-3 times a year. So it's like, and like huge names will go in Grappler's Quest. So that's how, like, small the community was. Yeah. So I went there, tried it, and it came natural to me. So I was like, cool, this is what I'm going to do. And, like, I told them, I was just like, I'm going to move here, and my intentions are to fight. And then that's what got me, and I was training every single day, taking every single class. And it brought me on the journey to, like, I competed nonstop. Like, as, again, like, there weren't many tournaments, but whatever was available, I would do. And I would figure out the way as to like how to manage the nerves coming up, because I did baseball, but that's still like a team sport.
Mhm.
I did some football, still a team sport. So I never did anything like by myself. And I tried every possible way to deal with the anxiety. I tried like being pissed, and then I was just angry and not seeing how to do something, so it was just like a waste of energy. I tried being calm, I was too calm. I tried like being happy, and then like I wasn't fully there. I tried everything until the point, and anytime I lost because of how clear and how grand my vision was, it was like I took it the absolute hardest. I will isolate from everybody. You would think like I was going through like somebody died,
Mhm.
and like
Did it feel like that?
yeah, because I felt like I let myself down, and everybody saw how good I was, and then I felt like I was letting the team down.
Yeah.
And it's just like, and then it was like, how am I supposed to get to where I want to be if this is how I'm showing up?
Yeah.
So like I would really go like down to the depths of like darkness, but then that's when I would like study the most. I would study techniques, like watching techniques. I would study techniques. I would study interviews about champions and their mindset, because I saw that's what separated champions from everybody else. It's not the physical stuff, it's all the mental stuff and their ability to focus. Physical is easy.
Mhm.
I could show you how to be faster. I could show you how to be stronger. I could show you techniques. I could show you mental stuff, but you have to apply it. That's the biggest thing. And a lot of people don't want to do it, because in the process of doing that, you have to go to those dark places, because you have to see what's holding you back.
Yeah.
So like I like really studied, like nothing else existed other than training and fighting. Like if I was in training, I was watching techniques, and I wouldn't hang out with anybody. Like unless I had an injury, nobody would see me. So people would have mixed feelings when they see me, because they're like, I'm so happy you're here. I don't want you to be hurt, but I'm happy that you're here. So like that's something that like once I made that decision, I stuck with it.
That was everything.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, it's easy to see like the outside, because I met you recently, and obviously you like already got to your high level of fighting.
Yeah.
But it's interesting to actually think about all the work that went into that.
Yeah, it was like the job I had at the time. Like I would have these odd jobs because literally nothing came before fighting.
Mm-hmm.
So the jobs I would get had to work around my training schedule.
Yeah.
So it would be like being a waiter somewhere, like at an Italian restaurant. And it's like, and I didn't care about what I was doing, because it was just paying for training. And I was just like, okay, like I'm here doing these things. And then all I cared about was like, when I'm done, I have this amount of time to get to my house, to get my gis and stuff, and then go. Because I only have one gi. That's all I was able to afford at the time. So like, I would go home after training, wash it, because like to make sure like, you know, I didn't get any skin infections or anything,
Mm-hmm.
because that would allow me to train more. So then I would have to hang dry the gi, because again, like there's only 3 gi companies. That was like one of the best ones. But if you dry it, that shit's gone. Like now you have a t-shirt. So like I would have to wash it, hang dry it, and because it was so thick, like now there's lighter ones. Before it was thick, so it's like I would have to hang dry. It would take a while, so it would, right when I finish work is when it'll be dry. So I would, and especially in the winter time. So then, and then I got rid of that job, and then I did UPS. So I would work overnight, and then literally my schedule was like, I would go to work at like 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning. And then get back by 9. Get back by like 9, 10-ish. Eat something quick, like very fast, so I could take a nap in time. Wake up, around like 3-ish, so I could 3-4-ish, so I could get ready to go to training because there's going to be traffic in New Jersey. Get to training, take the 2 classes back to back, do some additional training after while they're like mopping the mats. Then after that, get my stuff, go home, shower, eat quick so I could take a quick nap before I go to work. And that was like my schedule. And I took, like, I would train every single day. Nothing else mattered. And I even quit that UPS job because I've never seen so many boxes in my life. So one position they had me in was like, there's crates coming and then there's boxes and you just look at the number and you have to put it in the right crate. It legit was endless boxes. Like, some would be massive, some would be small, but like there's constant twisting. And then I realized in training my lower back would be tight and it would be sore, which compromised my movement, which compromised my style and my technique. And I was just like, okay, this is going to affect me long term, especially when it gets to competition, because I'm building bad habits. I got to let this job go because this is affecting my overall goal. And then that's when I transitioned out of that. And that's when I went to like another server job.
So what did you end up finding for like your competition mentality? How did you get over the competition nerves?
What I found for that was I noticed in like my research as I was studying champions, and I was also studying mindset, and I was also studying like how the mind works and patterns and behaviors of just human beings in general. Because I will also study champions of the outside world. Like Oprah, she's a fucking reigning champion. Mm-hmm. That level of success, like, that's champion status. And I would like study her, then Bill Gates, and just all these people, because again, they're just champions of their world. And I heard everybody kept talking about the flow state, and I heard about that, and I started to dive deeper and deeper, and I hear them talking about like how it feels, the sensation of it, how they're just fully immersed and on. So I know what I'm experiencing in anxiety, like in the anxious moments, especially going into competition, because with jiu-jitsu competitions, especially at my weight class, there's times I'll have like 10 matches in a day. So, but it's the first, you still have to be on, but it's the first 2. First one for sure. Second one, you have to like lock it in. Then you kind of go into cruise control after. So I knew the sensations that were coming up. I knew the thoughts that were coming up, how believable they were and how they made me feel and how they would freeze me up. And I would have to almost like fight through that frozen state, which significantly slowed me down and like made me move in a weird way rather than me being loose and confident and relaxed. So as I hear them talking about the flow state, I was like, okay, what's this sensation? In what ways can I tap into this when I'm feeling that? Because I don't need to just learn it. I need to figure out how to feel that in the midst of when everything's telling me, get the fuck out. What the fuck are you doing? Like, this shit may happen. This shit may happen. Like, you might get embarrassed in front of everybody. What if you get put to sleep? What if something breaks? Like, all these things. So it's like, okay, how can I shift that? Because I know all of it's bullshit. But that still doesn't change the fact that there's a part of me that, for some reason, believes it. And as I heard them talk about the sensation, it was all about presence. It was all about being present. And then there was talks about meditation, which I didn't fully know what it was. So like, I would do it, I would try to empty my mind, and that shit would be frustrating. And then I started to feel present, like feel the level of presence when I would be training, when everything just, I was like, oh, this is the feeling, this is the sensation. And then I started to like use visualization during training to practice being in that space. And then I started to realize, oh, I'm almost like creating this path that I could go to whenever I want. I go in and out, in and out. So then I found that presence was the thing that allowed me to just be on. It's like, I don't care about anything. I don't care about anyone. I don't even care about myself. I'm just here. And then I'm not tied to anything. I'm not trying to finish in any specific way, because that also still gets in the way of it. Of like, oh, I'm looking for this kind of submission. You're no longer in flow. Now you're fixated. So it's like, you just have to be just wide open. And also having an added, like, nothing's going to stop me. So to remove being fixated on one way of winning, my main thing every time I competed would be dominance. I don't care how I win. I just know I'm going to dominate you the entire time. So if I win by decision, so because like there's times I would be hard on myself that I won by decision, or it's just like I could easily finish this person, but then that will put me in the spiral, especially if I have multiple matches. So it's like, okay, even if it goes to decision, it's going to be a dominant decision that people are going to be like, holy fuck. Like, there's like, we already know this dude won.
Yeah.
So it's like, that's all I cared about. And that carried over to fighting, where it's just like, I'm just going to dominate you. And that, like, that's what I was known for, was my focus, but just dominating everybody. And then I clarified it with, like, I wanted to be technically dominant. Because I don't want anything to be sloppy. I want it to be like, you can't touch me. And because there's some people I would hear from other matches that like, oh, like, you know, if this happened. No, if I'm technically dominant, no matter how you look back on that match, there was nothing you could have done. I was clearly better than you. Mm-hmm. Even right, that I beat you. That's what got me into that space.
I was just talking, someone was telling me, or reminding me about there's like a Daniel Cormier John Jones fight, mm-hmm, where afterwards DC was like, there's nothing I could do. Like, I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
So it sounds like you were looking for like that kind of undeniability.
Yeah.
Like, it's not tonight I'm better. It's like, I'm better than you. There's nothing.
Like, there's one fight as an amateur. I was dominating the fight, and then had the guy in the arm lock, and then like he was holding his arm. He was like the short, stocky dude, holding his arm, and I had it, and I was just like, I was like trying to break his grip to like finish, mm-hmm, and he picked me up, and he slammed me. And as he's picking me up, I knew he was going to slam me, so I balled up more, so my head was safe, mm-hmm, almost like a turtle. So I balled up. So when he slammed me on my shoulder, I was like, I'm still good. So like, I'm still trying to go. And then like, he managed to slip out. Mm-hmm. And then my instructor showed me like, should have hooked the leg, but he managed to slip out. So I was like, okay. So I square back up, and I have my hand by my face, because amateur, you can't punch the face on the ground, but I practice good habits. I'm preparing, mm-hmm, for professionals. So my hand's by my face. My other hand is like reaching for his leg under mine, because if I grab it, I'm going to sweep him, come right up. Mm-hmm. So I'm just waiting for him to get closer, because he's too close for me to stand up. If I stand up, he's going to rush me, probably throw a punch. That's going to be unnecessarily risky for me. So waiting on how to engage. He's like throwing punches to like my stomach to like let the ref not stand me up. So I was like, okay, like that's not doing anything. So I'm just waiting to see if the ref is going to stand us up, or I'm either going to go for the sweep, or I'm going to or stand up. Like, I'm reading the situation, and I see the referee like getting closer to me, and like I'm locked on my opponent because I'm never going to take my eyes off of him. Mm-hmm. And I see the ref getting closer. I'm just like, the fuck is he doing? Like, are you going to stand us up? Because you're kind of in this in-between space of like, you're not stopping it, but you're getting closer. Like, now you're in my space. What the fuck are you doing? And then the referee like stops it, And then I pop up to my feet. I'm like, what are you doing? And he was just like, he waved it off like I was hurt. And I was just like, what, like, why did you stop? He was like, oh, you were out of it. I was like, out of what? I was like, I'm on the ground. He's standing right in front of me. What do you expect me to do? Like, I'm defending myself. I'm good. He's punching like my hips. Like, what the fuck is going on? So I was pissed. And I found out a little bit after. He came across one of my teammates, the guy that I fought. And he told my teammate, he was like, thank God the referee stopped the fight. He was like, because Mike was fucking ridiculous to fight. Like, he was really tough, and he was getting the better of me. So thank God the referee stopped it. I was like, that's why I was pissed. Because I know I was dominated. But like, even in that situation where like it was, that win was taken from me, even he knew
You're right.
that I was beating him.
Yeah. Yeah, that is interesting. I know there's like, so when you were talking about the not being set on like how you're going to finish him.
Yeah.
I feel like that's like that comes at a certain level of jiu-jitsu. So I'm a blue belt, and I feel like that was coming up more, because I tended to be like, oh, I like this submission, I'm going to just spam that. I'm going for that every time.
Yeah.
And as you get higher up, you have to be ready to like kind of jump around and take what they give you.
Yeah. So it's like, still go for your favorite technique. That's what I tell everybody at first, is go for your favorite technique. Because go for your favorite technique and see all the places you can hit it from. Because some people will say like, oh, you can't do this submission from this position. Bullshit. You can hit any submission from any position. You just got to be creative, and you got to, and as you're doing that, as you're going, like for me at first, one of my favorite submissions still is a triangle. So I would try to see all the ways
just
I could possibly,
from anywhere.
I even tried to triangle from half guard, like, and I could do it from bottom, and then I'd be like, okay, can I do it from like top half guard? I can't. But I was like, and like, it sounds like I'm going against my previous comment. I'm just like, you can hit it from anywhere. But it's just like, try, because like, in you trying to do that, the persons you're gonna see like, oh, I see a setup for a Kimura, or I see a setup for like an arm triangle, something, and like, it just gets you moving in a different way, to where it breaks you out of this idea that like jiu-jitsu or anything is just step 1, step 2, step 3. That's not how it is. And that was the realization I had, was that nothing is like so textbook. Once you understand the principles of a technique, you could apply it anywhere. So like a triangle, one arm in, one arm out, your arms are around the neck and underneath the armpit, and then you just lock it in tighter and tighter and tighter. That's essentially the concept of, and you keep their posture broken. Right. And that's I
think once you figure out the angle, because I know like I've like gotten confusing on the wrong way, but like if you, it like, I always heard like look down their ear.
That could be confusing, because you could still be looking at the other ear. So I think about lining up my head with my knee. So I grab my shin, and my hand go towards my knee. Yeah. And now if you're lining up with your knee, you're naturally creating the angle, and you're pulling your shin. Right. My instructor is really big on holding the shin.
Yes, not the foot.
Yeah.
That's how you break your ankle.
Yeah. So like, but like, from, again, once you understand the concepts, there's a freedom that comes with like, okay, now, because in comparing your movement to that textbook idea, you limit yourself, because it's like, oh, you could have like a very clear arm lock, where you're like, oh, well, because it's not exactly how it was taught, or it's not like, I'm not doing the exact steps, you think you're doing it wrong, and then you let it go, and it's like, no, you were doing everything perfect. You're just comparing it to this idea of what you think perfect is.
Yeah. Do you ever do like the reverse? I think one of my favorite submissions is the reverse mounted triangle. So That's maybe what it's called. Maybe it has a different name, but it's where you kind of slide your knee behind their head, under their head.
Oh, yeah.
Because the mounted triangle, I was never as good at that one. But yeah.
Yeah, it's all about weight distribution.
Mm-hmm.
You want to think about the person as like, I don't really skateboard too much, but like a skateboard, to where like, in order for you to ride a skateboard, all your weight has to be on the board. If it shifts off the board in any way, you start to lose your balance and you fall off. So the person is your skateboard. And it's just like, how much of your weight can you put on the person? And the other thing I think about myself is like, the floor is lava. So it's like, you want to put the minimal amount of weight on the floor. You can hover just for balance, but all your weight's on the person. So no matter where they go, even if they turn, your weight doesn't go to the floor. Your weight almost just flows over them. And it's almost like, like a sandbag. Because it's like, if you pick up a table's stiff. So that's why it's so easy to pick up, no matter how heavy the table is. But like a sandbag, it's like, because when you pick it up, it like droops over your arm, and you're like, oh, fuck, like this is, and it's like, that's what makes it heavy. It could be the same amount of weight, but because of how it's being distributed and it's covering every volume of you, that's what makes it heavy. So like, if you just think about like, how can you just stay on this person, and you just melt on them, that no matter where they go, like, you're there.
And they're just like holding your weight
That's
whole time.
That's when it gets suffocating. That's when it's like, just get the fuck off of me. And like, I've trained with people that's like 300 pounds, like football, like linebackers, and like even like the offensive linemen, that like muscular people, they're really not that hard to train with. Sometimes like fat people are. Just because like when you go to frame, it's like your arms get sucked into fat, and it's like, fuck, like there's nothing solid. And you're still stuck in place. You're like, get the fuck off of me.
Yeah. Because they just naturally have that like sandbag.
Yeah. And that's why, like, they're slower, but if they're on top of you, you better move. Because if you slow down in any way, they're just going to keep filling gaps. And you can't really do much about it.
Yeah. What, so you started with jiu-jitsu competitions, and then you moved into MMA fights.
Yeah.
What was that transition like? Was it more like, do you feel like that prepared you enough for those like pre-fight nerves, or was it a whole new thing?
It prepared me for sure, because like with jiu-jitsu competitions, it's a matter of like, again, for me, I didn't care how they were showing up. I was showing up with the intensity of like, I'm looking to break, I'm looking to put people to sleep and dominate. So I'm preparing for somebody to have the same mentality against me. So then if I come across it, it's not like this big shock. And that's where like the bullies of competition come into play. They're okay with being the bully and being the tough guy, but they meet somebody with equal opposition, they're like, what the fuck is this? And then they fold. So like that I got to prepare for. What was different was that there's very little chill time. There's absolutely no chill time in the fight. That's the biggest difference with jiu-jitsu. Jiu-jitsu, that intensity is there. You can still break something. You can still put somebody to sleep. But the fact that like once the fight starts, it's like there's punches, there's kicks, especially like professional. There's punches, there's kicks, there's knees, there's elbows, there's takedowns, there's the cage. To where like in jiu-jitsu, you get reset out of bounds. And people would just use going out of bounds as like a scapegoat. Right. It's like, there's the cage. Then you're on the ground. Then there's ground and pound. Then there's elbows there. Then there's still jiu-jitsu. And then there's the wrestling. So like there's no point that, and if you watch jiu-jitsu, there's always a point. So like there's not really much of that chill time. So the other thing too with MMA is there's three to four different energy systems. There's the striking aspect, the clinching, four. The striking aspect, the clinching aspect, the wrestling aspect against the cage, and then there's the jiu-jitsu aspect. And the way that energy is used is very completely different. The way that you breathe is completely different. So the best thing is to understand how to transition your breathing pattern from one energy usage to the next, and getting your body comfortable with knowing, okay, this is the energy that we're using in this mode. So if you know you're going to go from striking to grappling, like making that shift. So that fighting got me to really amplify my presence more than anything before, because there's also so much happening. And it's like I wasn't able to describe it like this at the time, but what's happening is you can feel the energy of everybody that's fighting that night. You can feel like the people that are nervous, the people that are scared, the people that are overly confident, the people, like, you can feel all of that. You can feel the energy of the crowd, of their nervousness and their rambunctiousness sometimes from being drunk, and then you have like all that kind of creates this like vortex of energy, because you also have your corner and their corner, then it's you, then it's them, and it's like all this, and then you're like in the eye of the storm, and then you have to block all of that out, hear your corner, be present with the person that you're fighting with, see their patterns. And then for me, a biggest thing was see their patterns, but be honest with myself if I'm showing a pattern, because then I need to break that right away. So that's something that only forced me to dive deeper into that space of just like void, complete void. So it's just like I'm not looking for, because I had to also develop the confidence overall to where like I don't need to just go for jiu-jitsu in order to win. Mm-hmm. Before, as I was developing my striking, I was like, okay, like how can I use my striking to get to jiu-jitsu? And that worked very, very well. And it was still something that I had in my back pocket, because anybody knew if it got to the ground, that's your ass. So it's like, but I knew I wanted to be dominant everywhere. And once I got to that point, using Muay Thai, I did like Muay Thai, boxing, jiu-jitsu. Muay Thai, boxing, taekwondo for striking. And once I had that blend together, and I was efficient and I mastered my distance, then I was just like, okay, now I'm not tied to any way of beating you. I could rock you on the feet. I could take you on the ground and put you to sleep. So that added to that space of like complete, I'm open. Mm-hmm. Whereas before it was just like I was in that space, but there was like a specific strategy behind it.
So similar to like the like hunting for one submission.
Yeah.
It's like you're not hunting for the jiu-jitsu finish. You're like taking what is available.
Yeah.
And dominating in that.
Yeah. And it's just and the biggest thing with fighting is like it also forces you to trust yourself completely, because you just the main thing I would tell myself is just like, I know what to do and when to do it. I don't need to think about like all these scenarios. I'm like, oh, prep for scenarios, and now I have strategies. But going into the fight, it's just like, okay, like I trained it to the point that it's automatic. So now it's just I completely let go, I release, I know what to do and when to do it.
Yeah. And that's probably like that. Would you say that allows you to have that presence?
Yeah.
Because you're like, okay, I don't need to worry. I don't need to overthink anything.
Yeah.
I got it.
Because it's just, the same way that you know for a fact when you walk, like, you know what to do and when to do it. Something's in your path, you know how to step over it or how to walk around it. You trip and stumble, you know how to regain your balance. So it's like those are a few different scenarios. You don't overthink those scenarios. You just know you practice that so much of regaining balance. You practice stepping over things. You practice walking around them so much that sounds like a ridiculous thing to like, oh, yeah, of course, like that's automatic for me. But when you were figuring out how to walk, let somebody put some shit in your path. You're like, hold the fuck up. Like, I just got this down. He's saying I got to bring my knee to my chest. Like, what is this? So it's like that, but that same level of trust that you have when you walk, if you apply that to everything, you're unstoppable. It's like you also have that same level of trust in driving. It's like somebody cuts you off, you know how to stop. You know, there's something in the middle of the road, you know to brake or drive around. Or whereas like, you know, when you first started driving, it's like 10 and 2. I'm like, you're looking at the speedometer to see like, are you going fast or are you going too slow? And it's like, you're braking and you're like jerking. It's just
yeah. And like everything is, yeah, you gotta be on high alert.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, what was like your motivation source? What was like the fuel behind it when you were fighting?
The fuel behind it was, I just knew that I was the best. I just knew that I was the best, and like I wasn't willing to not be a champion. And I also had the experiences before of like getting bullied. I had the experiences of just like, and also like the struggle was a very huge fuel. Like I'm struggling with money at the time because like everything's going towards training. But again, like MMA is just not popular. Like when I was fighting, like it just became like legal in New York. Like that was this whole big thing, like just fairly recently, a couple years ago. And like jiu-jitsu started to get popular. People started to know what it was. But like I was in the midst of it while it was coming onto the scene. So like there wasn't much money in it, but they were still charging the same amount. So it's like between struggling with money, not being able to do the things that I also wanted to do, because I also couldn't travel, I also couldn't do any of those things. And that was like a battle of navigating like self-worth. So that would just combine with like past pains. I will concentrate that towards fighting. And that for me, what I kept saying a lot when I was fighting was just like fighting was a way for me to make life fair. Now there's no other things that like are in the way. It's like me and you one-on-one. It's like I get to just go directly to you and handle you. Whereas before, it's like, you know, if I'm dealing with like financial stuff or whatever, it's like, then I have like, you know, somebody collecting a debt that is like a company. It's like all these middle people. There's no middle people. It's me and you. I go straight to you and I get to handle you exactly how I've been preparing to. So that was a way for me to just like, that's how I felt like I could create my life. Was like I get to show myself that I am the champion that I know myself to be. Despite feeling defeated outside in life, this is something that I get to show myself what I know to be true. And then everybody else I get to show you too.
So everything else in your life, all of the places where you didn't have control, like helped you just focus your energy on this one area where it was like,
yeah,
you can control this and like it's fair.
Yeah, it was this very big proving to myself, but mainly proving to the world that I was just like worthy of the life I was living and worthy of the life that I knew I was capable of. Rather than saying like, I can do this, it was just like, let me show you that this is actually true. Because I know everything else makes it seem like it's bullshit and that it's not. and me saying that I'm the best and like I'm really, really good. And I know it seems like that's a facade. Let me show you. Because every time I show you, it's undeniable. And that was the one thing that I felt like nothing could get in the way of me showing that in fighting. It's clear cut.
Okay. Do you feel like your motivation fuel has changed since stepping away from fighting? And
Yeah.
What has carried over and what's different now?
What's different now is I let go of like that proving energy, because with that proving energy, I was just, I wasn't able to fully amplify myself as much as possible, because everything was just like the purpose behind it was like, let me show you, let me show you, let me show you. Now it's just like, it's just being it. Now I just am it. And it shifted from a proving to a knowing. And in the space of knowing, it's just like, I don't care what you think. And it's like, it's not in any way, I just don't care, because I don't have control over that. What I have control over is me showing myself what I know to be true. Me creating my life in the way that I know that it is. And then the proving has now shifted towards like a noticing, where I'll show myself of like, I guess you could say like proving myself right. Oh yeah, you said you feel this way, and look at all the evidence of this. You say that, you're confident and you're this and this, and look how you're showing up in the world. And it's just like, now I acknowledge myself. So I say in the space of knowing and acknowledgement. And that feels significantly healthier, because there's no downfall. With proving, the reason if it feels so heavy is because if I don't prove you right, that's where that darkness comes in, because it's just like, shit. Now all the stuff that I was afraid of seems very true. And through the proving, I was trying to run away from the stuff that I was afraid might be true. Whereas now it's just, I just reflect on what I know to be true about me. And anything that may be heavy or dark, it's just the other side of the coin. So it's an aspect of me that's highlighting the part that I know to be true. So like if there's, for example, a part of me that may doubt myself, cool. That's just an aspect of me that's highlighting the confidence that I have. So it's almost like a reminder of like a reroute. Just being aware of, what do you know about yourself? Do you know yourself to be doubtful? No. That's why it's uncomfortable, because you don't resonate with this. So what do you know to be true about you? I know that I speak with clarity. I know that I'm confident. I know that I brighten any space that I enter. I know that I'm felt everywhere that I go. So it's just highlighting those attributes of what you know to be true, rather than when you try to prove and you feel that doubt, you're like, fuck, I kind of felt like that was true. And now that this stuff didn't work, now I feel like that's even more true. And you're just losing sight of what you know about yourself. So that's like the biggest shift for me.
So you let those internal voices, if they are kind of negative, you just let that be like a light on like, okay, let's look into it. Let's see what's actually true.
Yeah.
And those, okay.
Because like, it's still, yes, that's an aspect of me. That's the other thing. It's like, pushing away like, I am not doubtful. Well, you just had that thought. So you are. But that's okay. Because it's not one thing or the other. It's like a spectrum of things. They're on the same spectrum. There's doubt and confidence. So it's just, you were just showing yourself at that moment in time, you started to lose sight of your confidence and you started to go towards doubt. Cool. If you're aware of that, then you can remind yourself of what you know to be true, and then you start to gain that sight again of your confidence.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not who you are, it's just feedback as to what you're doing in the moment. And then you just get to reflect, what do I know to be true about me? And then your answer is clear as day when you hear it. And again, that's why doubt doesn't feel good, because everybody knows they're not a doubtful person. So that's like your feedback. That's letting you know, hey, like, you're losing sight of yourself. And once you remind yourself of who you know yourself to be, anytime you're in that space, anytime you're having like a really, really good day, in the most beautiful way, you really don't give a fuck what anybody thinks about you. You're like, oh, like, that's cool. Even if somebody gives you a compliment, you're like, thank you. I knew that, but thank you.
Yeah, that's something I've been coming to realize is like, if it is doubt or any other negative emotion, like jealousy,
Mm-hmm.
anger, it's like I'm not an angry person.
Yeah.
I just was angry at that moment.
Yeah.
I was jealous. I was feeling jealousy. Like I was feeling anger.
Yeah.
I was feeling doubt, but not letting it become who I am.
Yeah.
Because like you're saying, in those great moments, like that's not there. There's not a hint of it.
Exactly.
So it's like, how am I that?
Yeah. And it's just letting you know about like that. It's just feedback about that specific thought. It's
Mm-hmm.
not you as a whole. It's just that specific thought. Because like, if there's like any anger about anything, or even jealousy about anything, it's not like we're angry or jealous throughout the entire day. It was like there's a specific topic that came up,
Right.
and that topic is important to you for whatever reason it may be, and then you kind of feel like there's an absence of that topic, and that's the frustration that's there, and that sensation is just you getting you to look at it. Now it's no longer under the radar. Now you're like, damn, this shit pissed me off. What about this thing pissed me off? And you're like, oh, okay, cool. And then you start to remind yourself what you know to be true about you in regards to that topic. Now that topic doesn't hold the same weight towards you anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. What got you out of fighting?
Mm-hmm.
How did you decide to stop?
It was the lockdown. The lockdown is like, it forced me to do it, honestly. Because again, like, it brought things that were just under the radar, that because of how locked in I was, and legit my obsession with fighting, and I use that word very clearly. Like, when I say I wasn't doing anything other than, and it benefited me in very healthy ways, but I was also using that as a crutch to hide the things that I didn't want to look at. So I was just like, oh, well, look how healthy I am. Like, I'm ripped, I'm jacked, like, I'm faster than ever, stronger than ever. My mind is sharp. Like, I could beat anybody any day. Like, I'm, the best at the places I train. Like, I'm on point. But it was just, it was a crutch in the way that, like, it's great to train a lot, but with the overtraining, it's also a way to just run from something, because now you're not allowing yourself time to just sit with you. And I never allowed any time to sit with me. I was constantly thinking about fighting, so I never got to check in with me. So going into lockdown, like I said before, like, I was getting ready for 6 fights that year, which meant like I had to always be on. And I was preparing for that because I knew like I could get a fight on like 2 weeks notice. So I need to be ready to, like, I need to eat clean all the time for performance reasons, but also if I need to cut weight. And for the place I was getting ready for a title fight at any given moment. So I also had to be in championship mode, which I was already making my natural state of being, because I always saw myself as a champion. So I was already getting ready for 5-round fights as an amateur. So I was just like always locking in. And it would only be in fight camps that I would get ready for 3-round fights. So I would be in that state, and then I heard about lockdown. I don't watch news or any of that stuff. It's not for me. It's very heavy energy. And I remember hearing about the lockdown. My perspective is like, okay, if it pops up enough, it'll come to my experience and I'll be aware of it. And then people say, oh, this whole COVID stuff is going to be a lockdown. And the first thing I thought, like, I didn't even care about me. I was just like, I'm going to find a way to train every single day. That was the first thing I told myself. And then things lined up to where my instructor was filming like a YouTube, like jiu-jitsu show of like techniques, like a live show for everybody that was stuck at home to still be engaged with community and also still be able to learn jiu-jitsu. Mm-hmm. So it's me, him, my teammate. I would film. They would do techniques for about like an hour. And then we would train together for about an hour or so. And then that'll be it. So I had now the entire day with me. Whereas before I had so many multiple training sessions of like jiu-jitsu and striking and wrestling and strength and conditioning that I didn't have that time. So I could only watch so many interviews, so many fights, because I taught myself how to break down fights and read patterns. So like I could only do so much of that within the day until it was just like, what's up, Mike? Like, how are you feeling? And I realized, like, okay, I'm using fighting to cope with the fact that I'm not happy, because I'm clearly not happy. And it's not about lockdown. I had just been home. And I started to hear of people like that were like a lot of people in the world that were like depressed. Some were like committing suicide, or some had suicidal thoughts. And I didn't notice anything different from the lockdown to my day-to-day life, because all I did was wake up, train some more, go home, do another training session, go home, sleep, rinse, repeat. That's all I did. And if I rested the most I would rest is 1 day, 2 if I was hurt. And during that rest day, I'm watching fights and I'm studying interviews. So it's like I didn't notice anything different. Lockdown legit was my life. And as I'm hearing that, I was just like, okay, like I don't take on like how the world is going through. That's them. It's like, but there may be something off if like majority of the world is experiencing this darkness, and I think this is normal. I'm down for being unique, but something might be a little off. So I started to like look into it. And then I dove deeper into self-development, because I went into self-development, which also ties into spirituality, because spirituality is just, although it sounds woo-woo, it's just you getting to know you more, deeper. And, it has the connotation of being this, like, I have crystals and, I have all these bows and life's magical. And but it's a lot of it is just like you looking at the aspects that you don't want to look at. That's really what the whole spiritual aspect is. And then when you're experiencing something heavy in somebody else, is you accepting that that's an aspect of you. That's really what it is. So I learned that stuff mainly for a competitive edge. And so I can know more about myself, know more about my opponents, be honest about my patterns. So I break my patterns during the fight and I read my opponent's patterns. That's why I got into it. But the more you start to learn more about yourself, and the more I learned about myself, that's when I saw I wasn't happy. And I started to like dive deeper and deeper and deeper. And it was, then I started to see, I was like, okay, I don't want to feel like I'm having like any anxious thoughts, like based off the world imposing their thoughts on me. So I want to take a fight during lockdown so I could show myself that, this isn't something I'm feeling because I've read or heard that the world is depressed and suicidal or whatever. I want to know that like this is my voice. So I took a fight during lockdown, and I couldn't even do any striking training leading up to it. I would do the jiu-jitsu training with the 1 hour, and I would have my teammate hold a pad, and I would be my own striking coach, and I would just do drills. So that was my preparation going into the fight for the most part. Went to the fight, dominated the guy, felt the same way. And leading up to it, like, because my routine was to turn off my emotions 2 weeks out going into the fight so I don't feel bad for what I'm about to do, I never turned my emotions on. So like I wouldn't be happy with a win. I would win, I would dominate, and I would just, as I'm standing there and I know I won, I'm waiting for my hand to get raised, I'm staring at the floor, and like I'm just thinking of all the things that I could have done better. It's like, okay, like I won, I knew I was going to win, so I did this mistake, I should have done this better. So if I'm getting ready for the next fight, I would like, that's literally what I'll be thinking. To the point where when I won my title and I defended my title, my instructor was like, fucking smile. He's like, you just won the title. And I was just like, yeah, but I could have done this. He was like, yes, we're going to train this week, but just celebrate the fact, like, be here, celebrate, you just won, like, in dominant fashion, you're healthy, you're fine, like, it's all good. And I was like, no, because, and I was trying to explain for what I see, and then like he smacked me. He was just like, be here, like, you have the belt. So I never got to, so I felt that same way. And then I always thought it was just like, that's how strong my determination and ambition was and is. And it is that, but it was also, nothing was ever enough. So then I took 2021 differently, and I would take like an additional day off. So instead of just 6 days a week, I would do 5, which was tough to do because I would feel bad about it. And the next week, I would do 7 days to make up for it. And so it took about a month, and I was able to take 2 days off, and which was Saturday, because Saturday is my favorite day. And still felt the same. And then I tried to mix it up. I did a week, didn't really change much, played video games and stuff, but like felt the same way. And then my instructor saw me, and to the outside world, it looked like everything was going great because I have amazing discipline. If I'm locked in my vision, no matter how I feel, I'm doing what needs to be done. So like I was still leveling up in training, both in striking and in MMA, jiu-jitsu, wrestling. I'm leveling up everywhere. Everything's looking great. But I was just burnt out. Like I didn't even care to like hide behind a fake smile anymore. I was just stone faced all the time. Then my instructor saw me. He was just like, you look burnt. I was like, yeah. I didn't even like try to hide it. I was like, yeah. He was like, I tried taking a week off. He was like, you just got to do something else different. So you need to change the scenery. He's like, I'm going to Iceland. I'm going to do a seminar out there. Why don't you come? I was like, he's like, everything's taken care of. You just need the flight. I was like, cool. So I went, and it was nice. Once I was on the plane, I was like, this is what I want to do. But because it was a jiu-jitsu seminar, I had to still train with people that wanted to train with my instructor because his back got tight on the flight. So like, and plus he had to like teach throughout the seminar. So like that takes precedent over training with some people. So I had to train with them. And because I was a black belt, I also had to uphold the standard of like going for quick, legit submissions. So I had to still kind of tap into competition mode because I don't know who these people are. No matter how nice you are, I don't know who you are. So I have to put it on you first, then fill you out. So then Then my instructor saw that, took me sightseeing, and then I was like, man, this is awesome. And I thought to myself, I was just like, what if you retired? Because like this is the stuff I wanted to do. Like I wanted to travel. I wanted to like, throughout all the years that I trained, I didn't go to any birthday parties, no weddings, didn't really see people, like I said, unless I was hurt. That was the only time people legit would see me. So, and then I realized when I said, what if you retire? I saw I was more afraid to retire than to continue fighting. And then I realized that, like, okay, I don't do anything out of fear. There's also a big reason why I fought, to face my fears in real time. So I know if I continue fighting, I will be this brave warrior to everybody else, but I would be a coward to myself because I know what I'm running away from. So that's why I made the decision. I was like, okay, I got to do this. And then I sat with, like, did you just waste all these years getting this good? You're now amazing at fighting for what? And you lined up all these avenues to go to the UFC for what? You won the title for what? And it's like just going down that path. So then I got comfortable with the idea that it's not wasted potential, it's redirection. And that I cared more about how I feel and my happiness, because it's my life and I want to fucking enjoy it. And it's been a struggle for a very long fucking time. And I felt that I'm done doing that. So then when I made the decision and I shared it with everybody, that was the exact feedback I got from the world. Some people were like, I'm happy that you are following how you feel. And other people are like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, you're so good. You're right there. The UFC's right there. You're about to be lined up for a title fight. Like, you're the best ever. Why? What the fuck are you doing? But because I sat with it, it didn't affect me. And then, like, I did a meditation after I made the decision, just to kind of like create some space. And a thought came up that it just wouldn't leave me. And I was just like, okay, like, I'm going to write it down on my board when I get out the meditation. But it just got louder and louder and louder. And I was like, fuck, okay. Like, I'll stop the meditation now. And then that's when I wrote down, I was just like, share everything that you learned up to this point with the world. Everything that you've learned, like, to be able to connect with yourself, the ability to focus, the ability to really care about how you feel and, like, transform your life in that way, share that with the world. And then as I started to do that, at first I was doing it for free, and I was doing it just to get comfortable with the idea of charging. It was like $1 a minute, just because, like, how much I value it. I didn't want to taint it. But every time I did it and I helped somebody transform their life dramatically, it wasn't like I feel happy. No, it was, from the beginning, it was dramatic shifts. That felt better than any fight I've ever won consistently. And that, like, that's something that, like, made me feel more alive than anything ever. And it's something that, like, as obsessed as I was with fighting, like, I'm healthily, like, in a healthy way, very obsessed with that. Because I'm constantly figuring out ways of, like, how to create pathways towards connecting with me, how to create pathways of removing limiting beliefs that we pick up along the ways. And how can I break that down to its most simplest form, so that somebody that hasn't done anything that I've done can carve that same pathway instantly. And, like, that's just, that for me, that's just fucking fun. Like, I just do that all the fucking time. And it just feels good to be able to do that. So, like, now, anytime I experience any kind of, like, dark moments, that's almost like my fight. It's like, okay, cool. I know for a fact I have to get through this as quickly as possible in the most efficient way and get out of it into the best version of me, like an even better version of me. Because since this is coming up, chances are I'm going to see somebody very soon, and also my clients for this upcoming week are navigating something very similar. So I need to come up with a solution, like, now. Mm-hmm. And, like, that's the fun aspect of, like, now that darkness, that heaviness is something to solve with a purpose and share. So, like, it's been fun. It's been really, really fun.
Yeah. It kind of, like, makes you hold yourself to a certain standard.
Yeah.
Like, I deal with my shit.
Yeah. Because, like, I can't, for me, it just doesn't feel right. And, like, I see it in the community where people tell people to do things that they're not doing. Mm-hmm. And it's like, And some people are really good at hiding the things that they're not doing. And it's just like, for me, I can feel if somebody's in integrity or not. And it's just like, for me, I can't do it. I can't say do something that I haven't done. I can't say do something that I'm not doing, because then I just don't know. And like, for me to get you to that end point, I have to know everything about that path. I have to know, what are the bumps along the road? What's a possible pothole? What's a way that you might stray off your path? So I need to like know all of that in short time. So by the time I share it, I already know, oh yeah, just watch out for this. You'll be good. And just, if you focus on this aspect, you'll be able to navigate everything very clearly and come back to you. Mm-hmm. And that's why when I share it, people always like get from point A to point B significantly quicker. And that's like, also again, to me, it's like a fun puzzle.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've gone through a similar feeling because I help guys get over their fears of approaching women. That's like one of the things I do. And it used to be great because I could do it like at the same time.
Yeah.
I'd be like, I'm going to go do this. This is scary, but I'm doing it. Like, I'm telling you what to do, but I'm also doing it.
Yeah.
Now I have a girlfriend, and so I don't do the approaches anymore.
Yeah.
And so it feels weird for me to be challenging people to do it without doing it myself.
But it's good because it's like, you've already navigated so many different scenarios. Mm-hmm. And then you also got the goal that everybody is doing it for the first place. It's like they're not doing it just to keep like talking. Yes. They're like, I want to stop at some point. Yeah. So it's good. It's like you already saw like all possible scenarios, and then you're like, oh, cool.
Right.
And then when you're here, and then now it's like an additional crowd that you get to now speak to as well. It's like now the people in the space as well. Mm-hmm. So you have like so many people to talk to. It's great. Yeah.
Very true. What do you think people get wrong about motivation?
What people get wrong about motivation is thinking that like that's what's missing. So I need motivation. I'm lacking motivation. Mm-hmm. No, it's not motivation. What you're missing is a clear vision. There's a fog around your vision, and you think motivation is going to clear it up. And it's just like motivation is kind of like there's a fog, and you do this real quick, and you're like, oh, I see like 3 steps. Let's go. Yeah. It's like, you're souped up. It's like, but if you get clear on the vision, then the fog disappears. And then now you have the added benefit of adding some additional motivation, because with a clear vision, motivation is just naturally there. You're just motivated to follow down your path because it's powered by passion. So you can sprinkle in some added motivation, which will then get you to like jog down your path, Mm-hmm. So as far as motivation, like, especially like I can relate this like with fighting. It's, people would come in, say that they want to fight, and it got to the point where I was just like, cool. If you want to fight, you have to show up, train 5 days a week. You have to show up to every MMA practice for 6 months. Then you can fight for our team. And when people hear that, they're like, 6 months? Like, nah, fuck that. Like, I want to fight now. And it's just like, they wanted to fight because of the reputation, like fight with our team for the reputation that me and my teammates have developed for our academy. We're all fucking nasty. Like, it was like the lineup we had was like me, my teammate Serge, Juan, my teammate Enrique fought at one point, Frankie, and we had it was just the tear that we would go on. Mm-hmm. It's like we were known for just taking people out, and people just, once we started to build that up and we all had titles, it's like, oh, everybody wants to fight for us. once we said that, all of a sudden, all that motivation went out the window. They'll show up for like once, twice, like 2 weeks, and that's it. And then there were people that like started to come on board and like really stay the course. Like we had like, another teammate of ours, like Sean, that became a champion as well. It was just like he got to feel the process of it. And, it's just, and it also carries over in the self-development space too. People want to work on themselves with a motive to fix a specific thing, usually something financial. I want to do self-development so I can learn law of attraction so I could make more money.
Mm-hmm.
That's nice. So how do you feel now about not having any money? And they're like, no, but like, aren't there affirmations or something? Like, why are you asking me that question? It's like, so that like, it's motivation. It's good as like a boost.
Mm-hmm.
The vision is what gets you to where you're going and to where you want to go. And because there's going to be times that when it's tough, the vision is the only thing you can hold on to. And the vision is what gets you out of the situation. It's like the light at the end of the tunnel. It's the vision.
Mm-hmm.
Anytime that's like things are very, very dark, like even there were times like I'll be navigating something dark and it will feel like I'm in this like absolutely dark forest. And no matter where I look, it's pitch black. But I will see this pinch of light at the end of the tunnel and it'll be this vision. And for me, the vision would be my mantra. My mantra is I'm living my dream life for the rest of my life with the love of my life. For me, that one mantra encases everything that I want.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing specific about it, but I am getting more clear on the specifics along the way. So no matter what I was navigating, I would say that to myself. And that would remind me of like, okay, that's the broad vision. And then I get to just work backwards towards it. What does that look like? And then now it's taking my attention off of whatever's happening. It reminds me that whatever's happening is not important. What is important is where I'm going.
Right.
Because it will feel like when you're navigating something that is forever. It will feel like that, okay, I guess this is life now. Like, but when you remind yourself of the vision, that's when it's like, okay, it's just a pothole. It's not a crater. It's not like the end of the world. It's just a bump. I know where I'm going. I just needed to remember where I'm going.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you think that's what you were missing in those early, like when you would have a loss in an early jiu-jitsu competition, that's what you were missing? It was like the long-term vision of like, okay, this is a bump along the way?
Well, I always had the vision.
Mm-hmm.
I would just be so hard on like, how can I get there if this is what I'm doing? How can I get there if this is how I'm performing? And like, it was like this constant like death and rebirth process of like, this fucking version of me is not good enough for what the fuck I'm seeing and what I'm gonna do. And like, I would just do everything I can to discard that version of me because it's like, this is fucking terrible. So like, it was just a lot of like, what I was doing was not enough. So I needed to do more. I needed to do more. I needed to do more. And I just kept adding more training sessions, more like, it was to the point that like, I hardened myself so much that like, you won't ever hear me say I was tired. You won't ever hear me say that I was hurt. You won't ever hear me say, like, I trained with a cast on. There's videos of me training with a cast on. There's like, I was training with, like, I have the scar, like, my forearm was fractured, and I just put fucking soccer shin guards on it. And I just said, try not to hit it as much as possible. I was like, but it's my job to keep it out the way. And then, like, I trained when I tore my ACL, partial MCL, meniscus. Like, I came back, like, in 6 months, and I fully healed in 9 months. So it's like, I kept finding all these different ways to where, like, I would just block out any discomfort I was feeling because of how hell-bent I was on the vision. But the difference now is I'm not waiting for the vision. I'm not waiting for me to get to the vision to show myself that I'm worthy of it. I just become the vision now, and I move forward in that space.
Mm-hmm.
Rather than before, I was working towards that
Right.
space. And there was parts that I was being and becoming, like I knew myself to be a champion. But like I said, the biggest difference now is I'm already the end result. I'm not trying to become the end result.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's something I've been playing with. Just like being new on Instagram and like starting this podcast.
Yeah.
And having like a new coaching practice. There are points where I feel like embarrassed because it is small, but then I'm like, okay, but I know what this is going to be.
Yeah.
If people don't see it that way now, that's fine. They can think whatever. They'll see it
Yeah.
when it gets to what I know it will be.
Yeah, it's like people. It's funny. We would have these profound sayings, but we would apply it to like low moments. So it's like, somebody's like navigating a toxic relationship or like a breakup or something. It'll be like, people would treat you how you allow them to, right? And then it's like, yeah, fuck that person. But it's just like, but that's across the board.
Mm-hmm.
If you know yourself to be the end result and you just show up as the end result, people would treat you like a professional, and people would just respect that you're at the top of your game. There's a friend of mine who's like, he's elite in coaching. The amount of like money he makes is ridiculous, but because that's the potency of what he provides.
Mm-hmm.
And he's thinking about getting into social media soon. So social media wise, he's going to have 0 followers. But that doesn't say anything about his actual credentials.
Right.
So for me, like, as we were encouraging him, like, hell yeah, do it. Like, the world needs your medicine, your message. It's just a reminder of just like, doesn't matter how many followers I have. It's like, if I show up in the space of like being professional, but also like just being like, however I see like the end vision being of like being the best at what I do, and not the best out of everybody, but being the best version of me doing what I do.
Mm-hmm.
People will just feel that, and then they'll treat you the same way in response. And that's something that's just like, again, it's just showing up as that version of you. And that's something I learned when I was like leading the MMA team. At first I showed up and I was just like, okay, all these guys here have more experience than me. They all fought. I haven't fought yet. And they all have striking experience. I just started striking. Let me just see what they do. And it was a shit show. People were just showing up like at different times. Nobody really knew what we were drilling. It was just like, all right, let's just do like 2 techniques and let's just spar. And then the champion in me was just like, this is not like, this is going to be good, but very, very short term. It's like, fuck that. I know what's good. And I just followed like the leader in me, just stepped in. I was just like, all right, this is what we're going to do. And I just structured the whole thing. And I saw that in a room full of leaders, just me stepping into the additional leadership role, not of like, I'm telling you what to do. I'm like, look, I got us. I know it's going to elevate us. Give this a shot. And I promise you, we're going to like skyrocket. Mm-hmm. This is going to help you break patterns. This is what we're going to do. We're going to work on this is going to be the fundamentals. And then like, and I didn't ask. I just said, this is what we're going to do. Mm-hmm. And people felt that like I came from a space of like, I wanted them to level up too. But it was also in the space of like, I want you to level up. This is for me to level up. I want you to level up too. If you don't do it, I personally do not care. You could do your own shit, but just know we're going to be leveling up here, and you might go at your own pace, which will be slower.
Mm-hmm.
And then that like willingness to not budge on my vision of that, and just caring to that degree, everybody was like, all right, cool. And like I realized that like that's when I saw everybody's responding to you, and everybody's showing everybody's response to you is their response from you. However you're showing up for them, like showing up for yourself in your exchange with them, is how they're gonna respond to you and think of you.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something that is just, again, no matter where I am, I'm just locked into, again, my grand vision of just overall in life, and like how I just want to lead with excellence in just every exchange. So even if somebody doesn't think like kindly of me, cool, next. Because it's like I don't have time to try to I don't convince anybody of anything. I don't have time to convince you of why you should like me. I'm fucking dope. I'm awesome. You haven't seen that? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like, and it takes a level of confidence to also not give a fuck.
Mm-hmm.
And when people see that like you're still going to lead regardless, that draws people to like, I don't want to say follow, but that draws people to, lack of a better word, follow what you're doing, because now there's a knowingness behind the words that you speak, rather than just like, all right, I think we should do this, and I right? Is that what she? They're like, this guy doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about.
Yeah. There's a certain like leap you have to take as a leader, which is like, you don't get to ask, you just direct.
Yeah.
You don't get. There is no guarantee people will follow you. You just have to hold that. And be like, this is what we're doing.
Yeah.
And like, join me or don't.
Yeah. It's just, again, it's just that taking that leap of faith of like, I know what to do and when to do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have a similar correlation when it comes to approaching. So, this happens plenty of the time with guys approaching girls, which is like, it could be a little jarring or surprising for a girl if you're like in your own world, and then this guy comes up and talks to you. Yeah. And it can be easy in those moments to if you notice that reaction, to try and convince them that you are not that. Mm-hmm. To be like, oh, I'm not creepy, like I'm not that weird guy, like that kind of energy. Yeah. And it's like, you're not saying it, but you know the energy of convincing someone. Yeah. Whereas the better approach is just to hold your presence and be like, I know I'm not that. Yeah. You can, I see why you might think that, but I'm not that. Yeah. And there's no convincing there. There's just you holding the space of who you are and being there as that.
Yeah, because people can feel it.
Yes.
Because usually it's the creepy people that say I'm not creepy.
Yeah. They're like trying to convince you. I swear I'm not creepy.
I'm not creepy. Like,
that's what makes you.
Yeah. Whereas just like, if you just standing like, again, it's just knowing who you are. Mm-hmm. Once you're very clear and you just know who you are, then you don't have to convince anybody of that. It's like, cool, I see it. You see something different, that's okay.
Right. And it is, yeah. It's hard to like people who are trying to get you to see them a certain way. It's not a very attractive quality.
Yeah, because it feels like what are you holding behind your back? Like, what are you,
Right.
what are you trying to like distract me from? Like, I don't know if I trust you.
Yeah. Okay. What's something you're currently struggling with? And like, what's in your way?
Currently struggling with in my way. I would say I would say navigating between trusting and discernment, because I do trust people and I do trust that they have the best intentions, but I also, through experiences, needed to, like, I had to increase my discernment, because I would give people like the benefit of the doubt, and trusting that they will show up in the ways that I do, with pure intentions and like just love, I got you, and being in the space of like feeling that people are showing up with that, and then just reminding myself like, okay, I do trust you, but I also have to see if your words match your actions. And so it's just navigating that discernment and trust balance, to where like not allowing the trust to go too far, too much, and at first, and the discernment not going too far, too much, to where like, nah, I don't trust anybody. I'm just really, really paranoid. So it's just holding that balance of like, okay, I know my ability to trust you. You do seem very trustworthy, and I would like to see if your words match. And that's what I feel is the balance that I have found recently, is just giving that space of like seeing people show up consistently, and like not dragging that out, because that's also being afraid to trust. So like, I'm not gonna have you do trials, it's just like, okay, let me see if like let me just see if you are who you say you are. And there's even somebody, like I got like a message from like on Instagram. It's like person that's like millions of followers, verified check and all that stuff. It says that they want to help me and like boost my page and stuff. And I was just like, cool. Sound like a very trustworthy person. I don't know who the fuck you are. And it's just like, I don't know how I could trust you. So just like navigating that space and just being unattached, to where like, if it works out, cool. If it doesn't, that's okay. But if it works out, not to lower my discernment, and if it doesn't work out, not to lower my trust. Just remain balanced.
Right. You mean your trust in other people?
Yeah.
Okay. So not letting one thing be like, oh, now I can't trust anybody.
Yeah. It's just like, okay, like, and because the main thing is that I trust myself to make the best decisions. But I, again, don't want to be in the space of just like, what the fuck are you up to?
Right. Yeah, that is so difficult. The words and actions thing. There's something as humans where like when we see someone speaking with conviction.
Yeah.
Like I've had that before, where I'll like hear a podcast and some guy's just saying something. It's like vegetables are terrible for you, and I'm just like, yeah, that must be true.
Yeah.
It's just because he says it with so much conviction. So yeah, being able to like see people's actions and making sure that they are aligned. I've also struggled with like, I want to be fully independent always.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't want to ever have to like fully depend on someone.
Yeah.
But then it's like, okay, but maybe I should let myself trust people.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot to be gained from that.
Yeah, for sure.
So finding that balance for me has been tricky. It's like I want to, never like fully depend on someone. But it's like if they don't come through, I'm like done. I'm like completely destroyed. But.
Yeah. No, it's a fine balance. That was something I navigated fairly recently too, like a couple months ago, where it's just like I trusted people, but it's just allowing myself to receive, and that's also like the trust. Mm-hmm. So it's just finding ways where you can still maintain your balance to where you're not dependent on people, but find ways that you can receive from people. That's what did it for me. It's like, okay, somebody wanted to like, hey, you want to go to lunch? Like, it's on me. Or like, I'll get you this. And whereas before it'd be like, no, like, I'm good. I got it. It was just like, all right, cool. Like if it offers, cool. I don't have to combat it. I don't need to say no, I got it. If somebody offers it, okay, I receive it. And like now I'm okay that like anything that's offered, I receive it. Because I also acknowledge that like when I do that for somebody, it feels good to do that. It feels good to like, you're hanging out with somebody and like you pick up the tab or like you get something, like it feels good to give. So anytime that like that I'm taking away that good feeling from them, and it's from a fear of just like either seeming inadequate to be able to like pay for my own thing, or afraid to trust somebody to be able to have good intentions. So it's just like, no, just they want to give, let them give, and then it feels good to receive.
Right.
And just be aware that like, if you're usually not the person that's receiving, usually you're the person that's giving. So that's just a way of life trying to balance it out. Life is trying to also make sure you receive. Because everything is always balanced. Mm-hmm. A wave goes in and out, breath goes in and out. Like everything is balanced day and night. So it's like you also have to maintain the balance that if something shows up towards you and it's all you have to do is just receive it, just let it happen. And just, cool, like this is nice. This feels nice that I didn't have to do anything. And I get to just reap the benefits, like enjoy the benefits of this. Like this is nice.
Yeah. How do you help people? So taking a step back to what we were talking about, how do you help people find and maintain a vision?
So how to find and maintain the vision, it's asking yourself the question in its most simplest form, which is, what do you want? And then at first, the common answer that comes up when I ask people that question is like, first it's one want followed by all these buts. I want this, but then this and but. I didn't ask you that. I just asked you what you want. And just see if you can stay on course with just only saying what you want. Mm-hmm. And it's very tough to do at first because like we got used to taking so many things into consideration, preparing for the worst. It was like, just ask yourself, what do you want? And stay only answering that. No buts. And then you're going to feel some resistance saying that, and just see what comes up. And then as you get clear on what you want, then you get to see like there's a common theme. There's always themes. There's always patterns. So if you just redirect that pattern of, okay, I want this, and like let's say somebody is like, I want money. Okay, what else do you want? I want to be able to like do what I love. Okay, what else do you want? I want to be able to like just be happy. All right, what is like one or two more things? I want to be able to travel. Cool. So it sounds like the common theme is you want freedom. And that's like the overall vision.
Mm-hmm.
Again, my vision, my mantra, living my dream life for the rest of my life with the love of my life. And then it just starts to get more clear, more clear, more clear. What freezes people up is they want to get to like 2020 vision right here, right now. And if they don't have 2020 vision on what that vision is, I don't know what's my purpose. I don't know what I want to work towards. And they feel defeated and they're like, fuck, I guess I'm just kind of stuck doing this.
Yeah.
It's like, no, just go to the grander vision. What do you want? And then you'll start to notice things related to what you want. And then it'll just be like, oh, doing this thing feels like the thing that I want. And now your vision is absolutely clear. Now you just cleared up the fog and you know where to go, rather than you're trying to run in the fog and you're like, is it this way? Is it this way? Fuck, I just ran into a tree. I don't fucking know. Like, just like, ask yourself what you want. Only answer what you want. No buts. And then just see from like 5 things that you list, what's the common theme across the board? And then from there, what are some things that you enjoy doing that feel like that? And then it's just going to just trickle down and point and get to this point of concentration that represents all the things that you want. And that's your vision.
Mike Gonzalez, everybody.
Yeah,
Mike,
man.
Where can people find out more about you?
So you can find me on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, even TikTok, at Mike Remembrance. And my website is pathofremembrance.com. Awesome. And you get to find all the information there so I can help you remember who you are, reminding you of your power to write a new story.
Yeah. I've worked with Mike and we met through the men's group, and so I've gotten to see a lot of just you. And yeah. You've been a big inspiration for how I want to be living my life.
I appreciate that. Thank you. It was great to see you just evolve into the amazing person that you are and all the amazing things that you do. Like, this is awesome. It's dope. Proud of you, man. It's awesome.
Thank you, brother. All right.
Yes.
See you guys next time. Let's go.